and welcome to the 94 by 50 podcast. I'm your host, Ilya Kurbanov. As you already know, if you've been watching me in the past, well, this time around, obviously, I don't have a guest if you have seen that. And the reason being, I find, is that for a lot of people out there who might be listening to my podcast and to this in general on any social media platforms. Um, the high number of people don't really know who I am and don't really know why I got into podcasting to begin with. Therefore, I just decided why not give it a glimpse of who I am and give you guys a little bit of an introduction to what I do, why I do it, and how I got into it. And, you know, hopefully you guys can come away with some information that you didn't know about me in the past. And we'll see. I just thought it would be interesting for all of you in the audience to get to know me a little more. So let's get right into it. In about 2011, I moved to Canada from this country called Turkmenistan. If you haven't known that before about me, but that's like one of the things that's really available on social media platforms and things that were written about me, or I kind of talk about it a lot and people that ask me about it as well. So it's one of those things that is really kind of public information in a way we can say. And in terms of podcasting and social media and sports content in general, I got into it about, I want to say, what, 8 years ago, maybe. And it all started kind of me connecting through basketball. And for those of you that know, I've played basketball for a very long time. I started at the age of 8. My mom kind of just kicked me out of the house saying, "Stop coming home after school and doing nothing. Go find something to do." So I found the game of basketball where I went to school back in Turkmenistan, and I've played since the age of 8. I've been kind of in love with the sport ever since, from stepping onto the court for the first time and then eventually progressing and getting better at the game a little bit and kind of, just following along the journey and becoming a basketball player and then media personality in a way and growing to be a bigger personality, hopefully. And matter of fact, just do it for me. Makes me happy. It's what I find passion in. So where do we go from there? Is I moved to Canada, and basketball is one of those worlds where people are just connected on many levels. You find friends, you make brotherhoods, and a lot of times basketball is really, and sports in general for a lot of people, is an avenue to create friendships and forge those relationships and grow just in general, whether it's on a maturity level or just learning things about sport, about the sport in general, or just being around the environment that kind of supports the same idea, or just you know in a way, how do you put it into words, like in a way it's brings you together, you could say. But yeah, the basketball is kind of was the avenue for me to grow and find different perspectives in everything I do. So when I came to Montreal, I've met, like I said, a bunch of people, and one of those people was Fred, who is a good friend of mine still to this day, Fred George. And he went to Champlain St. Lambert back in the days. For those who don't know, Champlain St. Lambert is a CEGEP that I attended from 2014 up until 2017. And I was interested in a program they offered, which was sports marketing and management, kind of right up the avenue of sports industry and and stuff like that. At the time, I also didn't think I was going to do media work and I was going to do a podcast and I would do broadcasting and sports writing. It kind of just all fell into place later in life. But yeah, the first step was really going to Champlain College St. Lambert. And like most of I played basketball there and I was on a team there. My first year, I emailed the head coach, Dan Martin, who is still the coach of that program, and I asked him if I could come for a workout because obviously I wanted to continue to play basketball even at the college level. And things obviously didn't work out for me a little bit in a sense that I didn't really get to play right away. And my first year, Dan Martin, Coach Martin promised me that, you know, there's little to no chance that I was going to play in my first year. And obviously, rightfully so, the team was stacked with talent. It was uh, it was one of the most talented teams I've seen in my basketball career, and being just part of it was an extreme privilege and a very challenging environment because they made me better as a person, as a student, as a player. And I was coming in just doing my job, finding love in the game and sharing my passion for the game with the rest of the guys on that squad. And eventually, we end up winning a championship that year, and I was more than happy to be part of that environment and just having the opportunity to really grasp the not necessarily playing, but just being on the team. It was fantastic. And those things kind of developed the work ethic of what I kind of do now still to this day. And just showing up, showing commitment, being there for whatever they needed me to be there for. I didn't skip a single workout session. I didn't skip a practice. I didn't skip a film session. I was there pretty much for every game day. Um, and, despite not playing, I showed up. I was there for the guys and I did my part by pushing them to be better. And I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity. And come year 2 and 3, obviously I didn't play either of the 3 years, but in my third year, I met this guy named Michael Moody. Shout out to Mike, man. He's one of the best basketball minds out there here in Canada. Um, he's based at McGill right now with the varsity team there. A very, very knowledgeable individual in terms of training, basketball, analysis and like understanding how to use players and how to develop them. A very, very intelligent individual, to say the least. And with him, he kind of saw something that a lot of people overlooked, we'll say, and that was my work ethic. It's something that I've always had, and obviously my passion for the game, like I mentioned a little bit early in this broadcast. But it was something that I really enjoyed, just training, getting better, and finding those new challenges. And eventually, he just sat me down and said, "Look, like I know your days at Champlain didn't go as you probably wanted them to go, but your basketball career doesn't need to stop here. It doesn't need to end. You're a great student. You have good grades, and you have the work ethic to play on a university level somewhere." And whether it was U Sports or college level continuing, it didn't really matter to him. I think he saw something that I might have not seen in me, and I just ended up going to a training camp with him alongside Kevin Walker-Messiers, who was one of my good friends. Shared some time together in the Champlain days as well as the University King's College for about half a year. But yeah, we went to train, and that's where I kind of found, the passion for the sport again. I got a couple of interests from small schools, and one of them was University of King's College, which I attended for 5 years. Um, they Peter McLaughlin, shout out to Coach Peter McLaughlin, who gave me an opportunity to play at the university level. And from that point on, it was kind of history. So, but more importantly, like me getting into the broadcasting was, excuse me getting into the broadcasting was really a passion for the sport itself. When I was completing my time at Champlain College St. Lambert, I was I needed to do an internship. I needed to do an internship with the sports organization, and that could have been literally anything, doing sales, management, marketing, advertising, you name it, communications, PR, and stuff like that. And at the time, there was one teacher who I signed up with because we all have kind of mentors that we go to and seek internship opportunities, and they put us in contact with whatever they have for different options. And for me, it was Paul Mershak. Shout out to Paul Mershak for being an amazing human and an amazing teacher, and learned a lot from him in the sports marketing and management program. He taught us a few things, and he always taught from life experience, which was amazing. Outgoing, using the book examples and turning them into something that he has accomplished or has done in the past. So it was definitely an experience that I looked at and thought, wow, this is something to look up to. It's experiences that all of us can go through eventually in our lives, and to kind of have the a glimpse of idea what that might be like in the future was always great. And uh, Mr. Mershak was very, very open minded about it, and he didn't hesitate sharing those things with us, which was lovely. So, coming to the end of that, I met Mo Khan, who we've had on my podcast just about 2 weeks ago. Make sure to check out the episode. It's up on YouTube, and you could also find us on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, 94 by 50 podcast. Yeah, so I met Mo Khan, got an internship through his connections with the TSN 690, and shout out to obviously the crew that I had the privilege to work with, and that being Tony Marinero, Sean Campbell, Chris Knuckles Nyland, for inviting me into their radio room and allowing me to be part of their show, their morning show, the Montreal Forum. Then, off the cuff, it was really an experience. And me being there, soaking as much information as I could, was something that I'm forever grateful for. The passion that you see in a radio room, the passion that you see from those hosts and the people that have been in the industry for so many years, it's one of the best experiences you could acquire as a young gun coming in there. So that is something I looked up to, and I was, well, why not try these things? I ended up applying for the journalism school at the University of King's College, and at the time I didn't really know what to expect because journalism as a whole is a massive field. There's writing, and there's all kinds of writing, to be completely honest with you, whether it's feature, whether it's sports, whether it's news, so many things that you can kind of pursue. And if that is an area, there's so many areas of interest that could catch your eye and just make you fall in love with certain things. And I know a lot of people that have been great with feature writing. I know some people who do investigative reporting. I know people that simply enjoy doing news writing. And for me, it was really sports. Um, and given the opportunity by Josh Young, shout out to my friend all the way from Newfoundland. He invited me to be part of the writing crew at the Dalles Gazette, doing sports writing, which then later in the year introduced me to some people at the Dalhousie athletic department. And, you know, from that point on, we just connected, and I looked at other opportunities that are possible within the sports community in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So kind of, got into it a little bit, got cut from my basketball team, unfortunately, for the reasons that I still don't know to this day, but I'm not heard about it, or it kind of like opened some avenues and gave me something new to look forward to. And that was indeed being on the broadcasting team with the Dow Tigers and the King's College Blue Devils, the UKC Blue Devils, where I spent 5 years of my life. And being on those teams and being able to learn and get those reps as a sports commentator, whether it's doing color commentary or play by play, you learn a lot. And, I found passion in it. It's one of the best things I've ever done. And imagine just being there in the moment and having to call that play. Anything happens. Sports are so unpredictable, and having the opportunity to sit there and be present in the moment and be a fan of the game, be a fan of the players, be the fan of the moment, and then yet again having the chance to simply be yourself. That's what drew me into it even more as I kind of continued to grow and mold into this individual and the persona I am today. So have I not gone through certain experiences? Maybe I don't find that passion. Maybe I do something else, but would like to say that things happen for a reason. I'm sure whatever happened to me in the past was also that. It just happened to be the right place, right time, and the right thing in that specific moment. And after I graduated from the University of King's College, I ended up coming back for a year of basketball as Coach Luke Stevenson gave me an opportunity to have a victory lap and have a senior year with a great group of guys that I couldn't have asked any better, to be quite honest with you. And being able to go to the playoffs, help this team win some critical games, it was something that I cherish every single day. But again, it's the passion and love for the game that made me want to do this all over again, kind of, even after a hard break in 2019, being off the team. But, you know, Mike Moody, my guy, said, I never let any circumstances define me. And I truly never did. I just remained myself, continued to work, and found passion in other things. And the fact that I was in the sports world and enjoyed being around those, moments, those games, those championship games at the Scotia Center in Nova Scotia, in Halifax, for the AUS Championships, U Sports Final Eights. It's really unlike anything else that you would be able to live through. And I'm glad I had the privilege to do it. So, and nowadays, as you could see, I'm doing a podcast. I started that in 2020. I've done it for 2 years. Then I took a year off because last year I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to continue this. And I didn't know where I was going, to be honest, because I was a little bit lost in the moment of finding who I am without playing basketball again. And eventually it just fell into place. I decided to come to Vancouver and start fresh. So now I live in BC and I do what I love again. I work with the UBC Thunderbirds. For those who don't know, I do sports writing for them and I do some broadcasting as well. Call in basketball games as well as volleyball matches. And, having the opportunity presented by Stu Walters, who is a tremendous human there in the Thunderbirds athletic department in the communications, gave me a shot. And so far, um, I'm so grateful to have had the reps that I've had this year, even though, it was so last minute for kind of both parties. As soon as I moved, I kind of looked for the opportunities to get involved. And um, shout out to Stu Walters, who gave me really a chance to be part of the team there at the Thunderbirds department. But either way, it's the life has a funny way of doing things and bringing things to us. So I'm so grateful to have all of these opportunities. And I feel like, if it's not for the sport of basketball, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. And as funny as it sounds, and as really as cliche as it sounds, it really happens for a reason again. Uh, and looking back at everything that I've done in the past and doing to this day, I wouldn't have changed a thing, from being cut from the teams, from not playing for 3 years and then playing again and seeing the hard work pay off eventually. Those moments you could be lost. And I was lost multiple times. And by no means I'm perfect, because I'm not. And I am far from that. But I will tell you one thing: I will always work hard and bring the very best version of myself regardless of what I do. And I will continue to work hard, and I'll continue to develop these relationships with people in the sports industry, because that's truly my calling. That's what I love doing, and that's how I got into it. So now you have a little bit of a background about why I do what I do. And to have the privilege to actually share this with you is another amazing thing. A lot of people don't get this opportunity. Where I'm from, like Turkmenistan, if you guys search it up, it's a really tough country to live in. And the fact that my family was able to leave in 2011 is, we're beyond grateful for it. Um, it's really not easy down there. It really isn't. And I think one of the privileged ones to have this opportunity, and to be able to share it with you is, the level of gratification that I get to just share my story, and for you to have a different perspective on what life is like outside of the Western world, which is the North America. Because obviously it's kind of a melting pot, especially in Canada, to have all of these different cultures. And it's amazing to see how people come together to celebrate one another. And we kind of need a little bit of more of that. And I wish we took the time to really appreciate those things. And I hope that the message I'm bringing onto this podcast gives you a little bit of a motivation and encouragement to do those things, to do those good things, to do those good things. And I hope that you will be able to get something out of it and truly appreciate every single moment that you live in. Um, but enough about me, right? Or should I continue? You're watching and listening to 94 by 50 podcast. Ilya Kurbanov. If you're just tuning in, um, it's amazing. It's amazing to share this with you guys. You all who are watching it and will listen to it later, maybe on YouTube and Spotify, coming up in February, and multiple other platforms. Fingers crossed. So, with that being said, continue to be you, be the best version of yourself, and continue to work hard and make sure to always keep it simple. And that's what I preach. I try to work as hard as I can. And, you know, I know the results are going to be somewhere down the line. And I'm looking forward to it. But until then, I'll cherish the moments of really sharing this and have you guys with me along for the journey, along for the ride. So to sum this little episode up about me, I will jump into the segment of what I like to call Into It. And it's normally a rapid fire questions for the guests that I have on the show, but obviously nobody's going to be asking me questions. I will just tell you a couple of things that I like and the teams that I support and some of the favorite players that I have and I grew up watching, um, my music tastes and whatnot, and maybe my pregame meals that I had with the teams when I was playing basketball. But we'll start off with the favorite teams. We'll list them off. My favorite football team, Western Western World. We like to call it soccer down here, but Chelsea FC up in West London in the Premier League. Been a fan since I was a little kid, to be honest. And the reason being, I just fell in love with their jerseys, and the player that I genuinely enjoyed watching was Frank Lampard, uh, one of the legendary players that the Blues have had over the years. My favorite hockey team is the Washington Capitals. For those watching the NHL, Ovechkin is one of my favorite players, and hopefully he'll get to the great one. He will get the scoring record, but that's in his hands, I guess. My favorite basketball team is actually not that far from Vancouver. It's only about 5 to 6 hours away, and that is Portland Trailblazers. I remember watching my first game for the first time, and they had this guy, the natural Brandon Roy. Man, I miss that guy. He was a walk-in bucket. Oh my God, he was scoring at ease. There's not a lot of players at the time were doing what he was able to do, and unfortunately, his career was cut short to the injuries and the lack of cartilage in his knees. But he made me fell in love. He made me fall in love with Portland Trailblazers as a team, and then later on, obviously, Damian Lillard came around and changed the whole dynamic of that organization for a little bit and led them to numerous playoff runs, Western Conference Finals. He is currently my favorite player in the NBA, and I genuinely hope and I wish him the best. I hope he wins that championship like he wants to. Um, what else? I like Formula One. For those who don't know, my favorite driver would be Fernando Alonso, one of the all-time greats as well in the sport. I do like watching tennis. I don't really have a favorite player, but I just enjoy um, watching the sport from time to time. I'm by no means an expert in the sport. I watch a lot of NFL football as well. Used to be a huge Texans fan up until they traded my favorite player, DeAndre Hopkins, who is set to be a free agent this year, and we'll see where he goes. Hopefully, he will be able to get a Super Bowl ring to sum up his amazing career. But might have to hop on that Houston Texans wagon again as C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins. Shout out the Michigan Wolverine wide receiver. It'd be great to see them get back into it, and me, I'm around the corner. I might have to just hop on a trend again. Uh, so a huge Michigan fan, basketball and football. We're national champs in football, basketball. Oh my, it's hard days for us. Hard days for us, but we'll figure it out eventually, hopefully. What else can I share with you? Favorite music? I'm a huge lover of different types of different genres. My music taste is pretty wide, and the variety of my music on my Spotify playlists is very. It'll surprise you if you had to listen to it. You'd be like, oh, this guy's listened to this and that. But some of my favorite genres are obviously hip hop. I like UK hip hop as well. One of my favorite artists or a Dave, J. Cole. I grew up listening to Linkin Park, so I'm a huge fan of Linkin Park. Um, my pre-game food and post-game food honestly depended on where the team went. You know, a lot of times it was just Subway. You know, it's just so easy to get caught up into in that life kind of lifestyle of just being always on the go and traveling with the team, and you had to eat where you were, you know, where you were. So, you know, a lot of times it was really Subway and the fast food chains. And sometimes it would have been restaurants on the road. For home games, I had like this quite of a ritual. I used to sleep in. I liked sleeping in for home games. And I would always go for a walk, get my coffee, have a sandwich or like a snack, maybe like a muffin or a couple of chocolate chip cookies, and just go on a walk, reset my mind right before the game, and be ready when it's time to go. So, yeah, a little bit about me here, about in the Intuit segment. Obviously, it would have been a little bit faster if it was rapid fire, but I have the time. I dictate the pace of this podcast. Nah, jokes aside, I do enjoy talking to you people, and hopefully, um, I will see more of you all here on the podcast, and I hope you guys do enjoy what I do, and we will talk about it more and more as the time comes. But I will say, make sure to follow, 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 follow. There's more great content coming. I promise you that you don't want to miss out on. Follow us for on everything. Find us on YouTube. Find me on YouTube. Find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It is all 94 by 50 podcast. No changes in the username. And yeah, just hop on, enjoy the ride, and I will leave you with this. Have Enjoy your moments, regardless of how lost you might be. The end game and the end is really right there, to be honest. You're never lost forever. You're lost for a moment, but when you are, trust your gut, trust your heart, and follow your dream. You know, whatever, regardless of what it may be. If you need to travel, do it. You will discover exactly who you need to be, who you will be. If it's working on your things and working on your dream and, finding your dream job, do it. Put all of your heart and soul into that dream and work hard. Be resilient, because adversity is going to hit and you're going to have to deal with it. So, and don't forget to always be your true, authentic self. Don't change for anything and anybody. Change for good, but change for you, most importantly. For you and you only. Because when those things will add up. And if you put your best foot forward, I promise you, it will always pay off. It will always pay off. And everything is just a matter of time. And you just have to trust yourself and trust your gut. And don't be too hard on yourself, because that's what burns you out. All right? All right, everyone. It's been a very fantastic experience for me. Again, I'm super privileged to have you all along for the ride and on this journey. I appreciate you all. I'll see you next week. Stay tuned for the guest. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know exactly who it is shortly. But until then, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for supporting me and watching and listening to this podcast wherever and whatever you're listening it on. And until next time. But until that next time, make sure to always keep it simple.